Hey, what's up, guys? Welcome back to the Racking Focus podcast. I'm Josiah Blizzard.
I'm John Doyle, and we're here at the AMC Theater in Plymouth Meeting, Pennsylvania, to see Hobbs Shaw.
John, I need to know, what is your favorite movie starring The Rock, or TV show starring The Rock?
It's a really problematic question, because here's the deal. If you say favorite, good, because if you said best, I would have a lot of difficulty, because that's a real challenge. But I do have to say, I think it's The Meg.
That's Jason Statham.
Wait. Hold on.
The Rock.
No, it is
There's
Jason
two bald guys. How about this? How about you give me your favorite Jason Statham movie?
Well, I was going to say that is Snatch.
Yes.
There you go.
Snatch is
That's
good.
what I was
We can
gonna say.
agree on that. Maybe we just go in and see the movie.
So,
and
look.
we'll just get, they're two bald guys.
Hold on, wait a second. So, The Rock is in the Skyscraper film, right?
Yes. Yeah. Is that your favorite Rock film?
No, it is not.
No.
No, that's a problematic
What about
movie.
Rampage?
No.
Both of which are on HBO if you want to have
Indeed.
a really
And that's
insane
where I watched
movie.
really crazy stuff. I don't know if I have a favorite Rock film. We'll see.
Maybe it's this one.
Maybe it is.
Maybe
Wait,
it's
is he in that animated Manawati? What is it
Mao,
called?
yeah, he plays Maui
in Disney.
Moana.
All right,
Moana.
which is Disney's not
My
my
wife
thing.
in the car could come sing some songs for me.
That would be great. Perhaps she'll do that later. So,
cool.
so maybe it's not that one. So I'm just going to say Jason Statham in Snatch,
Great.
and that's
We'll
who I'm
leave it
rooting
at
for
that.
tonight. That's who I'm rooting for tonight.
Awesome. Well, let's go find out who wins. Hobbs and Shaw or
All right.
Idris Elba. I don't know. Let's go.
You're listening to the Racking Focus podcast.
My name is Ho.
There's two of them and $2 billion worth of us.
If the three of us don't work together, billions of people will die.
Your sister is one of the toughest, baddest, most capable women I've ever encountered.
No one could do it better.
My kind of girl.
I see what you're doing. You think I'm stupid?
Of course I think you're stupid.
O, H to the O.
So what'd you think? We've been anticipating this movie for a little bit.
We have, and to be honest, the thing that was most anticipated both happened and happened differently than I expected.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I'm gonna say right up front,
Spoilers.
absolutely spoilers.
Yeah.
You do not want to ruin your experience of the film by not having watched it before we talk.
Yeah.
But I'll say this right up front, if someone's still sticking with us because they're dumb, it is the worst written, most entertaining film I have watched. It is an enigma and a contradiction. That's what it is.
Well,
it is, and I will stay still. I think The Meg is still the best Rock film. I know.
Yeah, but
Even
that was
after
Jason
this.
Statham.
I understand that. I may be making a point. All right, so.
But you haven't seen any of the other Fast and
I've seen a pile of them, but not all of them. And
Okay.
I certainly haven't seen all of what led to this.
Gotcha. Okay,
Right.
great. Well, Steph and I
I'll talk about that a little
in the
bit.
back seat here.
Yeah. Say hello, Steph.
I bought the entire collection on iTunes because it was $5 a movie in the bundle, and it was all 8 movies. This is better than a few of those movies.
Okay. Yeah.
At Tokyo Drift, not good. Just that you would watch Tokyo Drift and be like, I would take Hobbs and Shaw any day
I
of
have
the
watched
week.
Tokyo Drift.
You have. Okay. How do you feel about Tokyo Drift? Do you feel the same way?
I feel that Tokyo Drift has 2 really good sequences
Yeah.
and a reasonably attractive Japanese woman. I think that's what that movie has.
And like 2 likable characters, and that's maybe about it. So leading into this, I didn't know what to expect because of what we've gotten from the other movies with Luke Hobbs and Deckard Shaw. However, I had a feeling it was gonna be about family, because that's the only mantra that Fast and Furious understands and knows. So they were absolutely gonna plug that.
Right, it's the language of Fast
That's
and
just
Furious.
family. Like if there was only, like, you know how Groot only says 3 words.
Right.
If they could only pick 1 word to say for the rest of their life, it would just be Vin Diesel again, who plays Groot, saying family.
Well, the key here is we may have the most actual biological family of any Fast and Furious film.
Yeah. Is that? Do you
I
think
think
that's
this
right?
is the most
'Cause you
biologically
have,
related
well, we
people.
have
Well, I mean, there's a squadron of Samoans,
Yeah.
right?
Oh yes.
I mean,
yes, you're
understand?
right. Yes,
Like,
we have two full families.
We have
for the
two
most.
full families.
You're missing out on Owen Shaw, who's played by Luke Evans? Is that his name? Whoever played the Beast in
the Beast.
Beauty and Beast remake. That CGI, man, we could talk about that. But
Yeah.
well, that's for another time.
It's not the Beast. It's Gaston.
Oh yes, you're right. It's Gaston. Who the heck played the Beast?
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Okay, well he played Gaston. He's another brother. He's one of the Shaw brothers. So
Who made the Kung Fu films, I guess. Never mind.
I don't
know. Yeah, keep going.
So there's this whole family, this whole Shaw family apparently are all talented mercenary killers. We met Helen Mirren in Fate of the Furious. Have you seen Fate of the Furious?
I've not seen Fate of the Furious.
Okay, that's the one without Paul Walker. He passed away
right.
before the shooting of that movie. And so we meet Helen Mirren in Fate of the Furious. Didn't expect her to pop up in this film for some reason. I don't know why.
Well, because you weren't thinking family.
I
mean,
I was, but I wasn't. I just didn't expect that whole thing. And two other cameos I did not expect. One, Kevin Hart, completely random, but that makes perfect sense.
And hilarious.
Yes, and yeah, it was a great little. They were talking for so long on the plane. I was like, this isn't going anywhere. Where is this going? It's going to Kevin Hart. And the second one, actually, the second one was Kevin Hart. The first one was Ryan Reynolds.
Oh.
It was pretty much just Deadpool.
Oh, really
without
spectacular.
A suit. Yeah, completely unexpected. There are two, if you haven't seen the film and you're still listening to us for some odd reason, there's two post-credit scenes that are setting up the next franchise of Fast and Furious.
Well, and to be
way.
clear, there wasn't really a beat in this film that wasn't setting up the sequel.
No, it's true. They set up the sequel at the end of the film, and then they just continued that setup.
I mean, literally, like the film started,
Yeah.
and I was like, "Wait, this is getting ready for the sequel."
Yeah.
Amazing. And Idris Elba could potentially be in a sequel. He could be back.
He could have
Who
survived.
knows?
Yeah, they may have just shut him off, but
Well, he may change sides because that's a
That's
Fast
true.
and Furious motif.
anything can happen. There are no rules when it comes to these movies.
Not at all. And to be clear, just one other point, as this is an Easter egg and spoiler, apparently the universe of the Italian Job
yes.
is this. So
Yes.
the Italian Job is in the greater cinematic universe of Fast and
Yes,
Furious. as of
apparently
now.
it's the same.
Oh.
Was he British in that film too?
Yeah.
He was? Okay, was it Smooth Rob? Is that
I mean, he
his
just
name? What was
does.
his name?
I don't remember
Yes.
his name in the film, but I mean, he's always. I mean, this is who he is.
Yeah. He showed a little
he's
Mini
like
Cooper, and it
the
was
best actor of a single sort of emotional
British
position.
character. Yeah.
It's really amazing. All right,
This
so-
could take place in the same universe as Snatch and
and we would
and
get
any
away
Guy
with it.
Ritchie film, and it would have been totally fine.
Yeah,
For some,
absolutely.
I think they might. I wouldn't put it past Fast and Furious to just try and link all of these little pieces together. Clever, but
So great. So you heard what I heard what you have to say. Now, tell me as the end of the giant journey you took with Steph watching all the films, how does this fall into that arc?
I feel like I'm in the middle of the freaking arc. Like, I feel like we just went through and we're in the middle of Act 2, and we've hit the midpoint, and now we're going the other direction. Whether that was we were going down first and then up, or we're going up and then down. Something's happening. I don't feel like I've reached the end of this. This could launch another 6 movies.
There's another whole franchise here, right? And they understand that the charisma of these two actors, and ultimately of what's her name? Goodness gracious!
Vanessa Kirby.
Kirby.
Yeah.
I mean, their charisma is overwhelming.
Oh, it's undeniable. Yeah.
And they know that. They understand what that's capable of doing. And if the audience here, sitting in this theater right now, as we came out after a 6:00 show to a packed.
It's packed parking lot. I mean, I went to the bathroom right before the film started, and I came back in. The only chairs that were not filled were like the first 2 rows because no one wants to sit there.
Mm-hmm.
So it was packed. This is pulling some serious money in this weekend, I think.
So tell me what you like the best.
Okay, so there was a few things that stood out. The first thing that I loved, which might feel gimmicky and might be kind of weird, I loved the split screen in the beginning of the film that introduced the two characters. But I specifically liked it because if you if you watch this and you had never seen anything, didn't know anything about these characters, based on the color grade and just the coloring and the shots in general, you could tell a lot about the characters, a lot about the characterization, who they are, what type of people they are, where they're from. They didn't say London or LA in the beginning of that split
Nope.
screen, did they?
No, not
They did
till
at the end.
Yes, at the end of the.
When they went into their respective clubs, right? And so you have this LA orange and this rainy London cool blue, right? Like you,
Which
and
they
you have,
internally reference in the language, right? They actually
Yes.
use color-based language as well as
it's color based. It's completely color based. And then what's interesting is actually when they go into their nightclubs, the colors switch.
Right.
And so now you have London they painted as more of a high society, like just like upscale sort of thing. That's the world that Jason Statham's character Shaw comes from, right?
Stylish, right.
And so they flip the color palette once they go into the clubs, and it's completely neon blue and pink in Hobbs's nightclub, and now it's a warm orange.
Mm-hmm.
I would rather, if I had to pick a place, I want to be LA during the day and London at night.
At night, yeah.
So you just can't get the best of both worlds. But so that was the biggest thing from the beginning of the film that really stuck with me the whole time, because that was the best use of color, I think, in the entire film. What about you? What did you like?
So I have to say that I think that they did a nice job integrating the car action sequences into larger scale action sequences.
Yeah.
And this feels like a spy thriller. I mean, it just feels like a really lightweight spy thriller. And so I thought that was really well done. I think the other, I actually really enjoyed the Samoan section.
Yes, I did too.
And
yeah.
I anticipated that was going to not be enjoyable, that it was going to be needlessly sentimental. And although perhaps the post-credit lead out, like the movie ends really strange.
It ends fast.
Like
the movie ends too abruptly.
It does. It just drops off, almost literally drops off the
Yeah.
edge of a cliff, and then suddenly we're getting all of this sort of epilogue, this denouement,
Yeah,
this
through credits.
through
credit scenes, right?
which actually worked just fine, but it felt really funny with the switch to the movie.
They would have been better as full scenes.
It would have been
better
as full
to
scenes.
have a scene of them going back in.
I think they know their audience, and they know that doesn't matter to their audience
Yeah.
as much, and so they're going to
Yeah.
let it go. But I will say that I thought the Samoan stuff was really good. I thought that they integrated the action really pretty well, and that could have been awful.
Yeah.
They did, that there was some really nice work there. I also thought that the sequence with the doctor in the scientist who we've seen 100 times.
Yeah, right.
That sequence with him originally was really well done too. The Russian sequence. I thought that was really nicely done. One thing I will say is there are moments when that camera's moving for absolutely no reason.
They're very Michael Bay.
I mean,
like arcs, and I mean, you chuckled a few times.
There was
it's
times
mainly when they're on the mountain.
Oh, it's
right?
just
And
they have a helicopter. They're flying.
Yeah, we're
that
just
thing
gonna
around the
circle
mountain.
them. Felt completely unnecessary. A lot of the I've said this multiple times. I have a hard time with shaky cam, especially during action, because what that says to me is that these actors can't fight. So we're gonna disguise a lot of the action as in the shake. I don't like it, especially coming off of Steph and I this past week just watched Legend of Drunken Master,
right?
And we watched
Enter the
Dragon, and so both films. There's no shaky cam.
You just watch people fight.
We're actually watching Jackie Chan kick some butt and Bruce Lee do what he does best. And so...
Awesome sound effects.
An awesome sound effect. We can insert sound effects maybe and post this.
We can do that. That's it.
Yeah.
Right.
So like coming from that to this, it's... I don't know. I want... Give me some I want a wide shot. Give me a wide shot where you actually take some people down. Now, what I did love as far as action goes, which sometimes gets too stylistic, and I hate when Zack Snyder does it for some reason, maybe I'm just holding a grudge against Zack, is slow motion. The use of slow motion when they
yes, was excellent.
Excellent. Yeah. And beautifully lit. Like it was it was Guy Ritchie slow motion.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely.
So David Leitch, who directed this. David Leitch? That's how you pronounce his name?
Leitch? I don't know. What?
David.
Yes, right.
Yes, David,
Right.
the director. Also did Atomic Blonde.
Yep.
So coming in, I knew he did this movie, and I said, okay, well, if we're gonna get anything out of this, it's gonna be good action sequences, and there were some really good. I mean, the whole.
Well, he
most of the
understands
movie-
lighting,
yeah,
so he knows
right.
how to use lighting and color.
Yeah.
And we've seen that before too.
And coming from, he was a stuntman, I believe, coming into Atomic Blonde, and he did that massive stairwell fight, which was just incredible. One of the best fight sequences in the last couple of years.
Yep.
And he understands how the camera works. But I was a little bit disappointed in the shakiness of the camera.
Yeah, and
this time,
maybe it is because of people fighting, but it's also hiding the number of people we're fighting.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
there are places where the matches just don't work.
Right.
And the shaky cam lets us get past that because Statham can actually fight.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
And Kirby
the shots
looks
that
like
were,
she could fight. Like there were moments where they went to a wide.
Yeah.
And she was.
And it was her and Statham.
Right.
Yeah.
Legitimately doing stuff. And The Rock can throw an arm. Right. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it felt to me like it was trying to manage group action,
Yeah.
not their individual action. Like the sequence where they're going through the two rooms, Statham's fantastic in that sequence.
Yeah.
Even where there's special effects stuff happening, that's a nice fight scene.
Yeah, there may be a reason that they gave The Rock one guy in a
Yeah.
room, right? And
Right.
he just punched him out. You have brute strength versus, actual martial arts capabilities.
When the opening
So-
sequence, we saw some pretty good Vanessa Kirby fighting taking place. So there were places where we were seeing some people actually fight, but whenever there was a large group,
Yeah.
and that Samoan scene's a good example, as interesting and intricate as it was, especially the driving stuff where we actually
Yeah.
saw stuff like the camera goes wide.
Right.
Most of that was shit hiding, I think. Difficult to match sequences.
Yeah.
Between fire and
Yeah.
whatever person. I want to say this, like the why is Idris Elba's character? What was his name?
I don't know.
Brinkman,
Brixton.
Brixton.
Brinkman.
Brinkman?
Not
Brixton
Brinkman,
is
Brixton. Why did he have to put a helmet on? Except
I don't-
because they needed to not
I
see his
don't
face
know,
when they
right?
were doing.
They needed a stuntman to come in.
Well,
that's
and
why,
when they
yeah.
were CGing these massive
Right.
CG moments where
Right.
the motorcycles doing stuff.
Go on
I'm
and-
like, why does this Superman? Why
need a
is
helmet.
he putting a helmet on?
And why does he need a suit?
So deliberately.
Why isn't he just walking
putting a
around
helmet
naked?
On. He's so well, and The Rock certainly. Like
Why aren't they all just walking around? It's, all the
when
women are coming out of this
so
movie
the
asking
moment
that
that I laughed, well, not the loudest because I laughed a lot of times, but when he put his shirt on
Yeah.
after the Samoan fight onto
yeah,
the car,
yeah.
he's put why?
he put his shirt
Where
on.
was the shirt, and what makes him decide to put it on? Like what? Why would you decide to
I
put a
don't
shirt
know.
on there?
I don't know. Let's talk about let's talk about Brixton for a second.
Okay.
Was he a good villain or no? If you just off the top of your head, don't think about it. Just yes or no.
No.
Good. Okay. Sorry, we just wanted to do a speed round.
That's great.
On that.
No.
I agree, because it's a little complicated now when you think about it. I'm kind of tired of the humanity's killing itself
Yep.
thing. Like you got Thanos doing it. You got what's that movie? Kingsman.
Kingsman,
Who
right.
did it? Like we're just like, was there another one? There was another film that we just watched. I don't know what it was. We saw it in theaters.
Almost every movie
Yeah,
we see
it's
today,
humanity's killing itself, so we
it's
need
humanity's
to
killing
do a mass genocide. So it's just all of these political statements on we're just destroying the climate and the world, and which we are.
But always the person who's noticed that is the person
Is
who's the bad guy.
villain? Yeah. And, so,
Yeah.
and they're always going about it from the wrong way. I don't think, like, if I had to choose who's a better villain, Samuel Jackson's character from Kingsman
Right.
or Brixton.
Yeah.
Samuel Jackson every time, and he's not putting up a fight.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing other things to kind of save humanity, but he's a more complex villain than this. He sees himself as the good guy trying to save. Brixton straight up said in the beginning of this film, they asked, "Who are you?" Bad guy.
Yeah.
You know, like he's saying, "I'm a bad guy. Don't trust me." Like I I hate that.
So-
the
so-
bad guy should never see himself as the bad guy.
Elba's taken a series of roles like this.
Yeah.
It's really interesting. So he has the same kind of role in Star Trek Beyond.
Yeah.
Like he's taken, and for an actor as good as him, who's running some pretty strong work outside of this,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah.
he's, Luther, whatever.
Oh,
He's
Luther's
doing
so
really
good.
strong work
Yeah.
elsewhere. He's taken a series of roles that are not well written, not supporting of him as an actor,
Right.
and as bad guys, really off base.
Yeah.
I mean, that Star Trek character is just, it doesn't make any sense. And this character doesn't make any sense.
Yeah.
There's
no depth. There's no depth
Right.
to, other than you get a little bit of backstory, there's no depth or emotional response to what he's saying. I just don't care.
One of the things you want to think about in a movie like this is the question of what backstory is versus not. So Guy Ritchie style backstory,
Yeah.
when we see the grifts,
Right.
is a whole different thing, right? Like that
Right.
works. Backstory where you're just explaining something
Right.
isn't
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
backstory.
Fair
It's
enough, yeah.
exposition.
Yeah, fair enough.
And so we got every time we learned nothing about him
Yeah.
from an emotional standpoint.
He only existed, and his exposition, his backstory only served the purpose of reuniting the Shaw siblings together.
Yep.
That was it.
Right, he was the linchpin to
Yeah.
explaining
Yep.
Shaw's
Yeah, he was
backstory.
just the bridge. He was just a connection. Yeah.
And what we see in this movie throughout, and that's why I say so poorly written,
Yeah.
is not just exposition dumps, but lines that, I mean, really, I'll be honest, like I wrote in like stories I created in 3rd grade.
Yeah.
Like dialogue where I would say, the importance of the universe can only be helped by like horrible writing.
Yeah.
Writing I don't really want to expose to the world.
No, there's no subtext in any
Right.
of this. It's just like, I'm just gonna throw this out at you, and you're gonna take it at face value because that's what it is.
And that's where Elba gets cheated because he is a charismatic actor
Yeah.
and they ruined this charisma.
Yeah,
So we
yeah.
have all this charisma with the 3 leads.
Yep.
And Helen Mirren is absolutely devastatingly charismatic.
Yeah.
We have these people who we're immediately connected to. Shaw's Hobbs' brother is a charismatic actor.
Yeah.
So you have that group, Kevin Hart, right? Same
Right.
thing. And then you stick this other guy and you put him in all black and you strip away
Yeah.
everything that would give
Yeah.
him value.
Yeah, there's no personality, there's no character.
And it really is one of the weaknesses of the movie, but it doesn't hurt my viewing at all.
Yeah. Well, because you know what to expect coming into something like this. Now, we've mentioned Guy Ritchie a few times. I would be so interested to watch a Guy Ritchie take on a Fast and Furious movie, because I know I'm not going to get a cliche action film. I'm going to get something that's fresh. I'm not going to see any Michael Bay-esque shots. I'm gonna hear dialogue that has subtext. I'm gonna hear dialogue that is well written, well crafted. That if you read it off of a page to yourself and all the characters' names were whited out, you couldn't read them, you would know who's talking.
Right.
And it would just be a fun movie. It would be a better movie. It would be a better movie. I'm tired of cliche action films, but
But
people aren't,
it's
so.
still fun to watch.
It's so
That's
fun.
the thing. It's
Yeah.
a roller coaster.
Yeah.
It's play. And so whereas some of the other movies we've watched that have been big blockbusters this year have not been enjoyable, have not been fun to watch. Either
Right.
take them too seriously, or
Yeah.
they don't make any sense, and we don't get any of the fun.
Yeah.
This movie delivers at every beat, whether or not I'm laughing because Kevin Hart's funny, or I'm laughing because I think that
Yeah.
the relationship we're seeing on screen is entertaining, or the charisma is engaging, or the camera work is ludicrous.
Yeah.
All of that is a payoff for me as an
Right.
audience member.
Right.
Like
Do they know the tonality of the film? They know what they're doing. They're not taking themselves too seriously. They know that this is the cheesiest shot I'm gonna do today, and it's gonna get it into the film, and who cares? Like, it's gonna cause a reaction in some way, whether it's someone thinking this is super cool or it's some film guy's gonna laugh at it.
Look, there was a moment when some guy threw chains that, by the virtue of physics or whatever, looped around another
Looped around
vehicle
the thing.
and hooked on. Right? I mean, it's an insane moment, and you just buy it because the experience is what you're going for.
Yeah. You brought up physics. Though, okay, so the one scene that we've laughed at every time we've seen the trailer for this film. What, every movie we've gone to?
Almost every movie we've gone to.
This season. And every time we get to The Rock hanging on, I mean, the man physically held down a helicopter.
Well, a helicopter, yes, but knowing now that he grabbed the chain as it was flying past him.
Yes, yeah.
And then had the ability to rewrap it from that strength position is even more ludicrous.
Yeah, I know.
And yet, you just ride with it.
You believe it. You believe it.
You know, one
suspension of disbelief.
There's this constant play in the movie about Vanessa Kirby is like, kill me, you have to shoot me.
Yeah.
Like, no one's going to do that.
Right.
And there is once they hit the go button on once the car mechanic redesigns the hyper technological piece with his 3D, California choppers devices. Once he does that, once that attaches to her arm, they try to make there be some suspense, but there can't be because they can't kill her in time now.
Yeah.
And if she doesn't get him out of her, everybody in the world dies. Like, it's like they set themselves up.
The stakes too high?
The stakes were impossibly high.
Yeah.
There was no way.
Everyone dies.
Yeah, everyone dies. And there's no way we're going to see a payoff to any relationship in this movie. Like, you can't get any of that because they're building a sequel.
Yeah.
But that doesn't remove any of the fun.
No, it's true. I don't know how they do it, though. Like,
it's nuts.
It's so backwards. Steph, what did you think of the movie?
I liked it. It was fun.
Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah.
I liked it the whole time.
Is it better than Enter the Dragon? Yeah,
Okay,
that's a good
thanks.
answer.
Yeah,
That's a
good.
answer.
I hope we have a shot. I hope
Those-
you're in the
Oh, it's
shot.
right
Those
there.
movies just ended. They were just done.
Yeah,
So did this.
Exactly.
Yeah. So
they
maybe
all
they're
just end like that.
That's when I was like, is it
Reservoir Dogs just end. We watched
Sorry.
Reservoir Dogs last night, and she was like,
done? Is that it?
"What in the world is
Yeah,
that?"
it just ends.
So, but going from last week, Quentin Tarantino's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood, so well crafted in every way, and you haven't seen it yet.
Right.
So well crafted in every way. To this film, it's just like it's the complete opposite of what this movie is.
And the horror of it is, right, that, and our timer's up, so I want to be conscious of time.
Mm-hmm.
The horror of it is that it is crafted
Yes, yeah,
for a
it's true.
specific purpose.
Right.
The poorness of the filmmaking, maybe, as art, is part of the craft.
Yeah,
And that's insane.
yeah. It's a money generator.
It is a money generator with guys who can't fail.
No, there's a formula somewhere.
And I'll watch Statham do almost anything.
Yeah.
Like I say,
I love Statham,
the
yeah.
Meg. It's not a good movie. I can't get enough Statham. I don't think there's a movie of his I haven't enjoyed. I just love he's so charismatic and interesting.
I need to go watch The Italian Job now because.
Italian Job is.
It's
It's a
great.
great movie.
It's great.
If you
But
haven't seen it, rock
now
star
I need to
film.
watch it knowing that Shaw is actually this other guy.
Right, like he's
so
right. He's
I need
pretending
to,
to be
yeah.
someone else. Insanity.
Anyway.
All right, so we're gonna run out of time, but we're gonna come back and talk about this again. So, quick first night rating from you.
As an action film, like 8 out of 10, 7, 8 out of 10. As a film in general, like a 6, 5 or
Okay,
6,
good.
somewhere in there.
Yeah. So as an action film, right? We're talking about the genre.
Yeah.
I think you're right. It's like an 8 out of 10.
Yeah.
Actually, in this franchise, for entertainment's purpose, it even goes to a 9 for me. Like I'd
Okay.
say, it's up at the top of what I've seen of the franchise, and I've seen the first bunch.
Okay.
I stopped sort of.
See, when The Rock comes in, that's where when
That's
The
really-
Rock and Shaw come in, I'm like, now it's gotten
Yeah.
good. Yeah, like
So-
the 6th one, I'm like, yes,
Yeah.
this is
So,
great.
so, but as a film, I'm gonna no higher than a 5 for me.
Yeah.
And that doesn't mean that it doesn't work as a movie for the movie theater.
Yeah.
And it doesn't work for something you can watch anytime it comes on television, or anytime Apple TV goes on and it comes on HBO, watch it on Saturday night, like whatever.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it is horribly written, and there's almost no direction.
No. Yeah.
And there's just, it just violates every rule of good of quality filmmaking.
Yeah.
But that means I'm being a snob because it is being made by people for the purpose that it serves.
Right.
Which is madness.
Well, let's see what we think in a couple days. And
Yeah, I'm
we'll get
anxious
back
to see what resources we come up with for this
sure.
film. So,
Cool.
all right, well, that's good. I think we're going to be okay here. I guess you should start the car and we should drive off. We'll see you soon.
Hey, welcome back to the Racking Focus podcast. It's been a few days since we saw Hobbs and Shaw, and there's really not a whole lot of information on the web about this movie. Have you found anything?
So, a cursory YouTube search came up with one sort of obviously prepackaged promotional piece where leads were answering questions, and some reviews and trailer after trailer after trailer.
Well, which is great because the trailer's actually so good.
Yeah.
I think I'd watch this trailer more often than I'd watch this film.
Okay, great.
I think the trailer's a great piece of editing, and it actually, I've heard people say that it tells you the whole film before even seeing the movie. So
It does. It just makes sure that you have things to be surprised about, which is great. It's a really well designed trailer. How about Reddit? Do you find anything on Reddit?
there's zero subreddit for this movie. I think that I saw one person who created the subreddit and asked if anybody wanted to be mods, and it has 2 upvotes and nobody else on that subreddit. So that is it. There's not even any conversation happening. It was just the question, who wants to be a mod on this subreddit? Nobody answered. So good luck to them. I didn't find anything there. The only things that I did find was there's one big plot hole question that is looming, and it's the fact that is it even possible for Jason Statham and Vanessa Kirby to play siblings that close in age in their flashback scene? Because the flashbacks made them seem like they were maybe max 6 years apart when he's 52 and she's 31, but she actually looks like she's like 21.
That's right.
So you have this 20-year gap, but really it's like it has to be max 8 years.
Yeah,
So,
and that would be, whatever poetic license they want to have.
And did that bother you in the film? Did that question even cross your mind?
So I think Statham, and I'm a Statham fan, right?
Yeah,
I think he doesn't have an age. Like in fact, he and The Rock both live in this sort of permanent, I want to say like 35-year-old.
Yeah, well, let's find out how old The
range.
Rock is. If you had to guess, how old would you say he is?
Like I say, 35. Like I think they're 35. They're both
They're
35
just
to me.
35.
I remember, in Snatch, which is not a current film.
No, it's too.
He's
right.
looks like he's
35. He looks the same age as he does now.
I know, he's just amazing.
He doesn't age. Well, so The Rock's 47. Vin Diesel's 52 as well, same age as Jason Statham.
Right.
Apparently, if you're bald, you don't age.
You really don't age. Well, and I was just watching the second Jack Reacher movie on television
Tom
to
Cruise,
fill
right,
time. And Tom Cruise looks like a big puffy mess in that movie. He's so full of work done. And these guys look like they're like fresh out of the womb.
Maybe Tom Cruise should shave his head and
well, I don't know.
He'd look weird,
I think people would dislike that a lot.
If we can find a picture of Tom Cruise bald, we'll
here,
flash it right
it'll
on
flash
screen.
right there. Probably not gonna find it.
Yeah, so that was the big question that people were asking, was like, this is a clear plot hole. They can't possibly be siblings this close in age. So
yeah, my response to something like that is, did you watch this film?
Yeah, because it doesn't matter.
The film literally is a massive plot hole.
Yeah.
Like there is
Right.
action taking place that is impossible.
Yeah.
That big truck they drive in the last sequence, the escape, right? Rather the escape sequence, the big giant truck.
The truck that The Rock's driving.
The Rock's driving.
He drives,
and
you,
Kirby drives it too,
yeah.
briefly. That's called the man truck, I learned online. That's called the man truck, and Kirby calls it the woman truck now since she drove it.
Okay, gotcha. Yeah,
That truck's impossible. Like it's a piece of madness.
It's too big for its own good.
It doesn't make any sense. Yeah. And when Statham lands on it, it's the level of madness means I don't care how old they are together.
He lands sideways on the bed of this truck and then just gets out
because there is no concussive damage to anybody. There are crashes in this film without broken bones. And you need to be Wolverine. You need to have metal bones in order to
Yeah.
survive these crashes.
Yeah. Oh well. Okay. So that's the topic then. A little bit is Fast and Furious started out as the first film. They went from these car enthusiasts to stealing some DVD players, essentially. Right. They were robbing truckers, stealing DVD players. Very normal human type move. There was nothing crazy about what they were doing other than they were really, really good at driving cars fast and being criminals. It's then escalated to robbing drug dealers down in Brazil or Colombia, wherever they were. They were in Rio, so it was Brazil. To stopping world mass destruction terrorism in Fate of the Furious. And now you have two guys teaming up, stopping a superhero for all intents and purposes. Black Superman is what he calls himself. So what Fast and Furious has done is they're like, oh, we're going to take a part of this Marvel pie and create our own superhero movie, essentially. So would you say that The Rock, Statham are superheroes?
Yeah, I think they're James Bond more than they're superheroes.
Right.
Although their physical attribute is the superhero attribute.
Yeah.
They are the indestructible Daniel Craig James Bond. Like the Daniel Craig James Bond, there's a lot of physical damage he takes.
Yeah.
And we see some of that. Like we see things happen to his body. Here, these guys, they're just indestructible.
There's no scratches on
There's
them.
no
There's no
scratches.
scratches anywhere. The Rock falls through a piece of glass with Brixton. He hits the piece of glass. At the same time, Statham comes out of an elevator and beats two guys up. And they get up, no scratches on them
Kirby
anywhere.
runs over glass.
Yeah.
It's madness.
Wait, is she barefoot?
I
Or
believe she is barefoot.
Okay, well,
in
we
that
know
scene.
from Die Hard that
And maybe
hurts.
she's not. Maybe she's not barefoot. Maybe that's just me thinking of another film where I saw someone do that. But that to me is madness. But that moment when he drops. So there's the insane outside elevator lowering that we hit a button and it just starts dropping fearlessly. And then The Rock, to beat that, drops onto bodies to knock them free.
Yeah, it's always like a contest between these two.
Yeah.
I was listening to a podcast called Film Spotting, and they brought up that what they loved that this movie did was it paralleled these two guys, two very different approaches. We talked about the split screen in our previous conversation of setting up their different characteristics, their morning routines. The Rock takes a crunch out of a Folgers coffee can, and Statham's making an omelet. Like, very different people, but it contrasts in the screen so well, not just with the split screen, but with what they're physically doing.
Right.
The Rock going brute force, jumping out of a building, landing on guys, versus Statham taking the more civilized way of, I'm going to take an elevator down. And even with them fighting in the two different rooms, you have brute strength, mano a mano. He just knocks the one guy out. Biggest guy ever. I mean, The Rock's 6'5". This guy he knocked out had to be at least 7 foot. Versus Statham, ninja-like skills, taking out, I probably had to be 10 guys in that room. So you're getting this split screen, not necessarily a literal split screen, but two different versions. This is what they're doing on one side of the screen versus another side of the screen. Even in the airplane, they're split with an aisle right in between them. One man's on the left, one man's on the right, going at it just verbally. So the movie did really well of splitting them into two different categories, literally on two sides of the screen, doing two different things. So I mean, that was a great little nugget from them that I liked a lot.
Yeah, it's funny because you're talking about like the clever, thoughtful filmmaking in this piece of spectacle. And there is no suspense in this movie, right? This is not a suspense film. There's no suspense present at all. It's an action film. It's a spectacle. It's a thrill ride. Yeah. And we see that in James Bond often, and especially in the new James Bond, we see it move in that direction. Certainly in the the Marvel superhero films, we see that. And they aren't falling into the DC trap of maudlin pain and suffering. There's tragedy here. Like, we know Kirby. The script says Kirby could die. We know she can't. Right. The script says she could die. There are moments of intimacy between people around that. Yeah. But that intimacy has no threat. Yeah. So we're not experiencing anything but the thrill ride. And that means they're doing their job, whether or not you think the
Right.
film is a high quality film.
Right.
You know, I wouldn't put this next to even like Reservoir Dogs, right, where we sort of have a sense of where it's going, and it's there's so much spectacle and action, or you know, Pulp Fiction. Any of those movies, Pulp Fiction has suspense, but you know, those movies there's lots of thrills in those movies. There's lots of spectacle in a Tarantino film.
Yeah.
This movie, and they're better films, right?
Well, and those two films work so well because they're hiding a very crucial piece of information that you're piecing things together with them, right? This movie, you're like, well, if Kirby dies, so does the entire world.
Yeah, so we're done. So
there's
who cares?
The stakes, yeah, right.
There's
exactly.
no stakes,
right?
But that means that my experience in the theater is just escapism.
Yeah,
And there's a place for that. The escapism isn't racist. I
Right.
do have some issues with the fact that, you know, again, they're painting people who want to make the world a better place into the evil ones. But there is this. I mean, it's just enjoyable, and there's nothing wrong with that.
it's a turn your brain off type of movie. Like the fact that we're even talking about this movie on a podcast right now means that maybe we didn't watch the movie as well as we should have because we were thinking too much during the film. I mean, they made this movie for people not like us. They made this movie for the guy who doesn't care about anything, character, what he wants to see, action. He wants to see people get hit really hard. He wants to see some fast cars and some explosions.
And you know, the other thing too, and I wanted to talk about this, is just generally the acting quality.
Yeah.
I think these people are all doing their job.
Right.
Their job is very specific and very limited. This is not high performance, right? This is not detailed acting, and yet they're hitting their marks. They're doing the work they need to do to meet the film's needs. I mean, Kirby's a good actress, right? And Statham's a good actor too. Rock, I don't know. I don't have any sense of.
I like The Rock. I think it's weird.
Yeah,
It's kind of weird. He's come a long way, especially since the Scorpion King.
Yeah, certainly.
From the Mummy back in, what was that, 2000?
I have no
somewhere
idea when the
in
Scorpion
there.
King came out.
Oh my gosh, talk about bad CGI. Anyway, go ahead, continue.
Yeah, so I'm saying like they're. Who did you feel gave strong performances as actors? Performances where you saw moments where you said, "There's work being done here."
Yeah. I haven't seen Kirby in enough to tell if she. I mean, this is definitely not her strongest performance. I think she's incredible in The Crown.
Yeah, and I think she's incredible in Mission Impossible.
Yeah.
She's extraordinary. in
Yeah,
Mission
I mean, the characters in this movie are so surface level that and The Rock plays himself in pretty much everything he does, and he's typecast in that, and it's not his fault. He's just that big that he has to play that character. And they kind of joke about that a little bit in the film, right? Just being so big for his own good that he can't be this guy. Statham, again, typecast as this kind of anti-hero, you know.
Smooth,
yeah, right.
smart,
His name's Handsome Rob
clever.
in The Italian Job. Like, that's pretty much him. We can talk about The Italian Job in a minute. But and then you have Kirby, who's just kind of there. I wanted to see more Helen Mirren because she's playing a character that you just don't expect her to play. I think, you know, and she played Princess. Did she play Princess Margaret in another film? I believe that her and Kirby were connected in some way. I'm gonna look that up.
What I want to say about this is that this is a movie about celebrity, not about acting, and that's a legitimate. Just as the movie's a spectacle, not really a story, right?
Yes,
It's just spectacle for us. This acting is really about celebrity. It's about Statham and The Rock and Kirby.
Right.
It's not about their characters. It's not about Hobbs and Shaw. They could have named this Johnson and Statham, and it would be the same because we're going for the celebrity. And often I'm really bothered by that in filmmaking when we go to see the celebrity and not the story. But this movie is so transparent about that I'm willing to accept it.
Yeah.
And, you know, we talked a little bit about Tokyo Drift, which is a rough haul of a movie, right?
Yeah.
And that's 3, right? That's the
third one, but it takes place in between 6 and 7.
Right. So it's the third one, right?
Yeah.
The third film made, and it's a rough ride because it's I think in that film they realized well, we can't keep making the same movie. We have to figure a different route to go. I'm not interested in that.
Right.
You know, I watch those films. But I love spectacle when I can get it.
Yeah.
And I love spectacle that knows it's spectacle. It's the example I would give is you're going to get mad at me. The prequel Star Wars films. They're full of spectacle and they don't know it. I don't think that the filmmakers working on those, especially the first two of those, understand that what they're making is spectacle, not story.
Yeah.
They forget.
Well, George lost himself, right?
Yeah,
George Lucas completely lost himself in a CGI spectacle of what his Star Wars universe could be.
That's right.
And
celebrity of the characters.
Right. You got Liam Neeson coming in. You have
Well,
Ewan
and
McGregor
you
coming
have
in.
Darth Vader's story. It's
Right.
just
Okay,
a
so
story
the
about
celebrity
celebrity,
of
right?
The
You get
character being the celebrity.
Vader is the celebrity
Right.
of the Star Wars universe in a lot of ways, and so that story, Han Solo gets one medium crappy backstory film.
Right.
Vader gets 3.
Right,
but there's spectacle, and so they don't know it, and that bugs me. Right. Doesn't mean I think they're horrible films. Although the first one's pretty awful.
I think the first one's better than the second one.
Okay, well then we have 2 bad films out of that 3. But
If I had to choose, so let me tell you real quick. I went to see all 6 of them before Force Awakens came out. I did 1 through 6. It was like a 24-hour run, and I think I got to the theater. It was probably like 1 a.m. or 2 a.m. and we watched them all leading up to the 7 p.m. premiere.
Right, where we saw you guys.
I had to sleep. I had to choose a film at some point. Which film am I going to go back to my car and sleep in the back seat of the Prius? And I chose Attack of the Clones because I cannot listen to Hayden Christensen say whatever lines he's saying. I had, and thankfully I came back for the Yoda fight at the end. That was it. But anyway, continue.
But to say that's I get bugged when spectacle doesn't know it's spectacle. This movie knows exactly what it is. It's not saying anything else. The trailer tells us, and there's something about that that's legitimate.
Mm-hmm.
And
we talked about the tonality of the film. Like they know exactly what they are, what they're doing. It's a money-making machine. It's just generating income. They know The Rock and Statham are just home runs every time. We've seen even the ratings for the movies. People have been saying like, yeah, Fast and Furious, it got way better when The Rock came in. Some people will disagree with that, I think, but there's people out there, right? Are you going to take The Rock? Or are you going to take Vin Diesel? Like, which would you rather have? I miss the heart in this movie that Vin Diesel brings, the sincerity that he brings.
Yeah.
But there's this whole feud that is between them a little bit, and so they're taking this franchise, I think, into multiple pieces here. Where Fast 9 is coming out in 2020, I believe. Vin Diesel's back, reprising that role as Dom Toretto. And I do not think we're going to see Hobbs in that film. I think they're going to go one direction with that. I think Hobbs and Shaw is going to go in a different direction. I would not be surprised if we saw a film, quote unquote, called The Hobbs Family that comes out, and it's him and his brothers doing whatever they're doing with the Hobbs customs. And then I would not be surprised if we saw The Shaw Family come out, and it's Helen Mirren, Kirby, and Luke Evans as Owen Shaw, and Statham as Deckard Shaw.
Yeah, so one of them is an action film, right?
Yeah.
And the other one is a grifter film, right? It's
exactly.
And that actually, but this idea of extended universe in film today is the way to go, right? You want to build out a giant franchise.
Yeah.
And as long as they keep their head about them, they can probably pull it off.
Yeah, I think so.
And again, if this comes on television, I'm probably going to let myself watch some because I'm going to want to see that thing I saw that I liked.
The franchise has always been about family, right? Vin Diesel is always saying family. This film in particular is very family oriented, and it felt overly shoved down my throat a little bit. They weren't just like spoon feeding me this little family thing. It was like, here, I'm going to slap you with a big old bumper sticker that says family. And
they just didn't say the word out loud 19 times. That's what you're prone to hear.
Right.
In one of the other films.
Yeah, exactly. And so, there's no Vin Diesel monologue that is going to end in family, right?
Yeah.
So, so it's always been about family, and so you're going to have Vin Diesel and his family in one film. You're going to have Hobbs and his family in another, and Shaw and his family in a third. And I think those are going to be the tiers moving forward, with one major, I think, focus on this new team that they're building. It sounds like Kevin Hart, Ryan Reynolds, Shaw, and Hobbs may, every once in a while, in the same way the Avengers have their own separate films, they're gonna appear together as one team of
And that
people.
means you can produce a movie
Along with Kurt Russell, who's
almost
Mr.
every
Nobody.
year.
Right, yeah, exactly.
You
They're
can
going
produce
to
a
be
mo-
pumping movies out.
That's right.
So they're taking this franchise into Marvel territory of splitting into different directions.
Right, without the sincerity potentially.
The only sincerity you're going to get is in the Vin Diesel films.
That's right.
That's potentially
and
it.
that I don't know, that made I don't even know. What
There's
to say.
almost too
What
much
it is.
sincerity sometimes.
No, yeah,
in those
I
films.
think that it's. I don't even know what that is.
I don't know.
It's just emotional vomit.
We have a
but
few minutes left.
good.
I want to talk about the Italian Job
Yeah,
real
let's
quick.
do that.
Yeah. So is this film now in the universe? Just to give a little backstory, right? We walk into Deckard's Shaw's bunker. He's got a bunch of cars. He sees Mini Cooper. He mentions that he did a job out in California a couple years back.
He needed it for it, right?
He needed it for a job. He played Handsome Rob in The Italian Job, directed by F. Gary Gray, who did Fate of the Furious, also both films starring Charlize Theron as well. Charlize Theron played a technological safe cracker back in The Italian Job. Way more on the electrical cyber side rather than the old school mechanical side of things. And she plays a hacker cyber attacker in Fate of the Furious. And they mention their history together in some way. So are those two things connected? And will we see Mark Wahlberg pop up in a future Fast and
So
Furious
if
film?
Mark Wahlberg was smart, the answer is yes.
Yeah.
I love the idea of extended weird connection between film.
Yeah.
I love anytime we find that something's been in a universe that we didn't know it was.
Right.
And it's happening more and more often where we're seeing things sort of get leaks or connections, and I love that.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
And we're storytellers, right? Like as a species, we love story. So we want to find more story in anything. We want to find connections. We're conspiracy animals, right? Like that's what we are. And so I would love that.
Yeah.
And The Italian Job is an extraordinarily good film.
Yeah, so much fun.
And really well designed,
Yeah.
well acted, smart. It makes perfect sense. But if it doesn't happen, the throwaway is still worth it.
Right.
Easter eggs are Easter eggs in films today too.
Yeah.
It's the gift to the fans,
Yeah.
right? And so I'm willing to accept those gifts
Yeah.
without
You'll
the
receive
needed
those.
attachment.
Yeah.
Oh, what do you think?
I don't think they're gonna go any further with it. I think that was probably just a one and done sort of nod to that movie that maybe David Leitch really liked, and David Leitch has had a heck of a career. He co-directed the first John Wick, moved on to Atomic Blonde, Deadpool 2, and now is doing Hobbs and Shaw. So he's definitely cemented himself as an action director, and he may have really found a lot of inspiration from the Italian Job from a couple years back to 2002, 2000, somewhere in there. So yeah, I don't think it's going any further, but it was a nice little Easter egg that they threw in there. It'd be kind of fun to see maybe a little more connection between Cypher and Shaw. See if their relationship actually did play out all those years ago, if that's actually what they were talking about. But as far as seeing actors from that film coming in, I don't think we're gonna see.
Yeah,
it.
I mean, it's for those actors, it might be a boon to end up in this franchise briefly, right? But the franchise doesn't need them, right?
Yeah.
Like the franchise doesn't need the Italian Job.
Right.
The Italian Job needs the franchise. And in a way, I hope that people try, part of the reason we're mentioning it is I want people to go watch that other movie too.
Right.
You know?
Well, I almost bought it. It was $4.99 the other day on iTunes.
Well,
so I was
people
like,
should-
man, I need to go.
People should definitively watch
It made me want to buy it and watch it. So, you want to wrap up? You want to do a second rating here? What do you think? What do you want to do?
Well, I think we should wrap up. I don't want to belabor the point. Yeah, let's rate, but I think we don't need I don't have any numbers game here. So,
I don't either. So maybe not. Maybe
recommendation. Let's just say that.
Would I recommend the film?
In theaters or at home? What are you telling people to do?
Oh, in theaters. I think it's fun at home. I think it's a lot of fun at home. There's just something about. I think I'll always recommend the big screen. So I think if you ask me that question for almost any movie, unless the movie is absolutely terrible or a comedy in some way, like a strict comedy, I would never recommend go see Step Brothers in the movies. That's just not a film I'm gonna want to go see because I can get the same experience on my couch. But a big action set piece where you're seeing Idris Elba fly through a double-decker London City bus, yeah, I want to see that on a 1,000-foot screen. I don't know how big these screens are, but it's some huge screen with a big surround sound system, and I have the feeling, I'm eating popcorn and I'm drinking a soda and I'm sitting in a reclining seat watching this film go off, and it's fun. It's fun to see in the theater. So
my feeling about it is that we've talked a lot about audience in movies, and I sat next to a guy this time.
Oh, he was laughing his head off.
He loved every moment of the movie, and he hated much of the trailers. Like, as the trailers played, he was grumphing and making these negative noises. And as we go through the trailers, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be a problem, because what he's responding to things that are good, and the things that are horrible, he's happy about. I'm like, well, I'm in trouble. I'm in Godzilla land. Like, that's what's in my head.
Oh, right.
And then the movie started, and he shut up and watched and enjoyed it. And I was sitting, and I hate people to some great extent. Like, I'm just so uncomfortable in large-scale public situations. And here I am in a space with these people, and I'm enjoying myself. And as the room filled with folks, I got more and more apprehensive as we're watching trailers, and there's people coming in late.
Yeah,
and we have had a couple of bad experiences where audiences have been that way at a movie like this.
Right.
But I think these people care about it, and that means you're in a community setting that's really good to watch the movie.
Right.
And that was great. I want to applaud briefly the AMC popcorn, which was extraordinary. Stubbs is worth it, both for the deal of getting to see the films and because they have really, really good popcorn. But I think going to see this in the theater is where to go. Where Dark Phoenix, watch it at home.
Yeah, right. You're not going to mix right. So at certain movies, I will say, just go. If it's that bad, just stay at home.
Yeah, and if the special effects aren't sufficient for the scale, this movie's full of special effects, right?
Their budget's there. Yeah,
but
they had enough money.
Did you sit at any point really and say this sucked? There were places I said
no, because I knew that this movie was what it was.
Yeah.
And so going in, I knew story was going to be maybe take a back seat to the action and to The Rock and to Statham. It didn't matter to me. I was just like, I'm along for the ride. And whatever happens, happens. They throw some ridiculous thing out. I'm not going to be like, that's so dumb. I'm just going to laugh at it and move on.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. All right, good. Let's wrap up because I know we're going to run out of space.
Thanks, guys, for watching the Rack and Focus podcast or listening, wherever you're listening. We want you guys to tweet at us, to connect with us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You can find us on Twitter at PodFocus, on Instagram at Rack and Focus Podcast, and on Facebook somewhere you can just type in Rack and Focus Podcast. Yeah, somewhere on there.
We're building a Facebook group to go along with our page to try and get more conversation going, because we actually do care about what you folks have to say. And since I don't have to sit next to you while we're doing it, I'm comfortable.
Yes, so be on the lookout for that. We will mention that in a future episode where you can find that.
You can also contact us by email at rackingfocuspodcast@gmail.com.
Rackingfocuspod.
I always do that.
Yeah.
I always add the
That's
podcast.
all good. It's natural.
It's way too many addresses.
Rackingfocuspod@gmail.com.
And all that stuff's appearing here, somewhere around my hands. So we can sign ourselves off now. We have a new editor this week. Tori Purcell's doing the editing for this week's show. She's a student at Emerson, and she's sort of we're giving her some opportunity to work. And we also want to mention that our next movie will be, our plan, is it The Farewell?
I think it's The Farewell.
I think we're going to go see The Farewell this weekend. So that'll be coming up. We have these bonus episodes too. So if you're on the regular feed, you're going to find bonus episodes from both Josiah and I talking about a film we think is worth talking about. So make sure you check those out as well.
Other than that, thanks for watching, guys. We'll catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Rack and Focus podcast.